I've made more money in a day than most people my age would make in a whole year. I just could not talk. My legs were shivering. People can immediately tell that you lack the confidence. Every single year, 15 lakh engineers graduate. 99% of them cannot be hired. How are you different? When I got into my puberty, I realized that Papa कुछ भी नहीं आता. Papa मेरी बात क्यों नहीं सुनते, मेरी बात क्यों नहीं समझते. But in the next 30-40 minutes, I'll be talking about who I am, what have I done, why do you need to listen to me, and how my learnings can help you become the best version of yourself. Sounds exciting? Okay, let's go. Let's go. So, how many of you are in first year of college right now? First year of college? Okay, I see some hands. Well, I was just like you 4 years ago. Here's a picture of me from exactly 4 years from today. I was chilling in BITS Goa, living the typical Goa chill life. And have you ever had those intrusive thoughts at 2 o'clock in the night when you're not able to sleep? Anyone? Anyone? I used to have those as well. This was me sitting in my hostel room thinking, how do I stand out? I always wanted to get into the IITs and get that prestigious badge that I'm an IITian. Couldn't really get that. When I came into BITS, I felt that I don't have an edge. I realized that there are so many talented people around me, and I just don't know how to distinguish myself from other people. How do I differentiate? How do I stand out? And that's a question I used to ask myself when I could not sleep at nights. And that was my story, right? How do I stand out? That was the one question I used to ask myself every morning when I looked at myself in the mirror when I woke up in the college. And who am I today? Let's have a look at that. That's me. I went to a venture capital event here in Bangalore. There's over 2 million following across social media platforms. I have an 8-figure business called as MarketUp. Does anyone know about it? So I built this marketing agency called as MarketUp, in which we help companies grow organically on social media. And with MarketUp, I got the freedom to travel where I want to work with who I want to, and to work when I want to. And that's the story of my 8-figure business. Apart from that, I published 2 books. The recent one was Unlocking Unicorn Secret. It became an Amazon bestseller when it was out on Amazon. Apart from that, I've given over 27 speeches in companies, in colleges across the country. And I really learned a lot from this whole experience, right? Apart from this, I have worked with companies I used to dream of working at when I was an 18-year-old, right? So I worked with Google, Amazon, multiple other companies, Government of India. And when I did all of that, well, I was 22. I am 22 actually right now. The reality is, I've made more money in a day than most people my age would make in a whole year. And I don't say this to boast, and it's not me being egoistic. It's me telling you that you can do the same. And what I'm about to tell you in the next 30 minutes is going to help you get there. It's going to be all of my learnings condensed in the next 30 minutes. So, are you ready? Yes. All right, let's get into it then. Okay, so there are 3 things that changed my life that I want to talk about. The first one is personal branding. The second one is skill stacking. And the third one is communication skills. We're going to talk about each of these. How can you work on this to become the best version of yourself? And I genuinely believe that if you put your heart and soul into these 3 things, in the next 1 year, it can literally change the trajectory of your career. All right, let's get into each of these. The first one is personal branding. Let me tell you what my definition is of a personal brand, right? I think, what is a brand, right? Let's think about what is a brand. A brand is what people think of you when you are not in that room, right? Very simple definition. People's perception of you when you are not present in that room is what your brand is all about. Your personal brand is just your own self and people's perception of who you are when you are not in that room. Right? Make sense? Okay. So why do you need to build your personal brand? I'll give you some stories, right? So When I was 19, I was selected by Unacademy to teach Python programming to their school students, right? And that all happened because I posted 5 videos of me teaching Python programming. Now, Python is a programming language that's very simple for anyone to understand. If anyone is a coder, you would know it's a very simple programming language. Anyone can learn it. I was not, inventing fire or something, discovering fire. I was there to just talk about what I've learned and just sharing it out with people on a platform, which is YouTube. As a means of me doing that, someone recognized what I was doing at Unacademy and they just called me up. They were like, Ishan, we watched that video of yours where you taught people Python, and now we want you to teach it to our own students. Now, the reality is, those videos barely had any views. They had like 10, 20, 31 views. And you would never imagine that these many views can get you anything in life. Right? You've seen those bloggers, you've seen those people who get millions and millions of views, and then you look at your own videos when you start creating content and you're like, what will I get out of this? But I did. And as a result of me just putting those 5 videos, I got to teach thousands of students Python programming for 365 days, for a whole year on that Unacademy platform. Why? Because I was discoverable. Because I was out there in front of people. Because I could be found. Was I the best Python programmer? Definitely not. Was I the best teacher? Absolutely not. I was just a 19-year-old kid trying to figure out what I want to do in life. But I was in front of people. I was discoverable, and that's what got me my opportunity. And that's the essence of what personal branding is and why it is important for you. Right? So we'll talk about why it is important. What is a brand? I just told you. And let's talk about how can you build your personal brand. Right now, most students who are right now looking at this, the best way for you to build your personal brand is to be active on LinkedIn. How many of you have a optimized profile on LinkedIn and you create content on LinkedIn? How many? You see, rarely any hands. And this is the opportunity I'm telling you about. Very few people take out the time to build a professional network, to optimize their profile, and to actually get opportunities on LinkedIn. And this is exactly what I realized when I was in first year of college. I attended this workshop where people were telling me about LinkedIn. I found out about it and I went all in. I used to share what am I learning. I used to share where am I going. I used to share everything that I was learning in my whole experience of growing up as an 18-year-old, learning to code, learning to grow in my own career. That was it. And I was getting opportunities left and right to become a front-end intern, to become a social media manager, things like that. But what really helped me out was the optimized LinkedIn profile that I had. And it was getting me opportunities every single month. So let's try to focus on LinkedIn, right? I want to show you a few things that you can do on LinkedIn today that can help you get opportunities. Does that sound good? Okay, let's go for it. So how do you get started, right? LinkedIn is the platform that you need to be on. And let's try to figure out how do you get there. The first thing to understand is your LinkedIn profile. Think of it as your digital storefront. And you have to make it attractive for anyone to reach out to you. Now, the first thing you will notice is the headline. Right? As you can see, below my name, there's a headline. This is where you create curiosity for anyone to go and look at your entire profile. And as you can see, the biggest mistake people make is that they'll just write, oh, I'm just a student at Christ University. What's interesting about that? There are hundreds, if not thousands of students like that. What makes you different? How do you stand out? Right? The same question I used to ask myself previously. What you have to figure out is, how are you different, and mention it in your headline. The average person who's looking at your profile will only spend about 7 seconds. And you need to give them reason to scroll and get to know you better. And the only way to do that is by optimizing your LinkedIn profile. Right? So if you have a look, you have to master your headline. You have to also master the contact info. If anyone looks at your profile, let's just say that you're a designer, right, and they want to work with you, they have to know how to contact you. That will only happen if you give them a way to contact you. It could be through your email, it could be through your Instagram, it could be even as simple as putting a phone number on it. Like, there are so many times when I found someone's profile interesting, I wanted to work with that person, but they were just not reachable. I just did not know how to contact them because apparently they don't want to share their contact info. And that's a huge opportunity missed. So you have to focus on that first of all. Okay, let's keep going. That's your featured section. That is where you would write down everything remarkable that you've done so far. Right? So for example, I've written a book. I gave my first speech. I was talking about some important topics. So I was mentioning it there in the featured section. It's a very important part because people don't have the time to look at all of your posts. They just want to look at your highlights. So did you win a competition? Did you get a job at a dream company? Did you get your first freelance client? Tell me about it. And you can tell that in the featured section. Moving on, you have the about section. And this is where you can use as many keywords as possible relevant to your field to get people to discover you. So this is all about search engine optimization for your LinkedIn profile. Right? What you're basically doing is mentioning keywords so that people would reach out to you by discovering your profile. So if you'll have a look, I have divided everything I've done in paragraphs, in bullets, and I've made sure that all the keywords around what I want to get into are mentioned in the about section. So this is very important. You have to be as granular and detailed as possible over here. All right, moving on, we have the experiences. Now, this is where I think most people miss the mark. If you have a look, I have talked about every experience I've had, whether it is building my own company or being a YouTube creator or interning at a startup as well. And I have detailed my impact on that company. Let me give you an example. So if you have a look, I was interning at this Bitcoin startup called as Codedam. And instead of just writing that, oh, I was just a marketing manager at Codedam, I wrote down everything that I learned while I was working at this company for 6 months in a row. I wrote down the lessons I learned. I wrote down the impact I had on this company. Another very important thing that can help you get opportunities. Be as much detailed as possible in the experiences section. Okay, what else? That is the skills part. Now, skills is where you write down, again, for the optimization of your profile for search, you have to mention all the keywords. So if you will see video editing, AI, other details, I've all mentioned it over there in the skills section. It's very important for you to mention as many skills as possible that you currently have for people to discover you. Okay, what's next? Now, we were doing all of this hard work to get discovered, right? If you are a React.js developer, your goal should be to get in the search results whenever anyone types React.js developer, right? So that's the goal that you should have to make your profile optimized on this platform so that you get discovered and you get all the opportunities. So that's what you should eye for. That is what LinkedIn branding is all about for you. Let's move ahead. Skill stacking. But you know, one thing before we move ahead to the second part is to understand that LinkedIn is all about sharing your experiences. Last night, I made a post about the lessons I learned when I recently went to Dubai for interviewing a billionaire over there. And I wrote down everything that I experienced. And people actually reached out to me saying that, hey, I was in Dubai. We should meet next time that you're here. So you have to share experiences in posts so that people can discover you. Right? So that's a bit about LinkedIn. That is what you need to do to get started with personal branding. All right? All right? Okay, awesome. This is the second part, which is skill stacking. And I think this is the most important thing that you all will have to listen. Okay, so how many of you relate with this picture? It's 12 o'clock in the day. The professor is teaching the same thing he's been teaching for 10 years in a row. You are probably trying to sleep but cannot because you're in a class and you're just bored of the topic. How many of you relate with this? Yeah? Now the sad reality is the things that is taught to you in this typical college lecture format is irrelevant. The job market, the industry is changing so fast, everything that is taught to you will become irrelevant because of the 3 or 4 year long degree that you are assigned into. It's very possible that by the time you graduate, you become this. You're a dinosaur with irrelevant skills. You don't know what's out there, what's hot in the market. You are outdated. What do you do? What do you do? Let's have a look. This is the data for engineers. Every single year, 15 lakh engineers graduate in our country. And 99% of them cannot be hired. They don't have the skills, they don't have the mindset, and they're just not fit for working in top product-based companies. Why is it? Because they fail to learn the skills that are important for them to win in their career. But what do you do? Let me give you more examples. How are you different, right? Let's figure that out. That's a friend of mine. We went to Dubai last year. This is Burj Al Arab. And he is a designer. Does anyone know his name? Does anyone know his name? So he is Anik. He lives in Mumbai and he's a logo designer, right? He recently turned 21 and he has been getting every single opportunity to make logos through his Instagram. Why? Because he put out all of his work and made it public on Instagram. And every single day while I was in Dubai with him, he was getting calls for people requesting him to make a logo for them. Right? That's one example. That's another friend of mine. This is the founder of Codedam. He's living in Bangalore. And the interesting thing about him is, before he started his startup in Bits, he was working as a Fiverr freelancer. What did he used to do? Let's find out. He was basically helping people fix bugs on their websites. There are so many websites out there, it's very probable that everyone is going to run into problems one time or the other. And so what he realized, he is just going to offer a simple service of fixing the bugs that they have on their website. And so this was a description of his gig. He will basically help people fix bugs on their website. Let's have another example. That is Easlo. Easlo is a Twitter creator. He is 20 years old. He has not shown his face. And he is one person who's obsessed with Notion. How many of you know about Notion? Right? So this guy was so in love with Notion that he built countless templates of Notion. These are basically templates that you can buy from his store and you can use it for your own work. Maybe you're a content creator, maybe you're a businessman, maybe you are someone who's in school and you want to structure your life. Check out his templates, and that was the pitch that he had. And without even showing his face, with just the help of Twitter, he was able to sell $100,000 plus worth of templates. And he's 20. He's 20, he's sold this much, never shown his face. But you know, what you will say by looking at this is that, okay, Ishan, these guys just, one guy knows coding, one guy knows design, one guy knows no code, marketing. What's new? The reality is, most people know that, right? There are so many people who know how to design. There are so many people who know how to fix bugs on websites. There are so many people who know about no code. What differentiates these people is something else. Let's find that out. That's not it. What these people had is a skill pyramid, which I'm going to talk to you about in the next few minutes. Skill pyramid is what enabled them to get opportunities that most designers would dream of, most coders could only think of. And they got these opportunities every single day because they focused on building not just a skill, but a skill pyramid. How cool is that, right? Okay, let's have a look at what the skill pyramid is. At the bottom, you have the hard skills. Hard skills could be anything like code, design, marketing, what you've just seen. But what separates them all are the complementary skills. Now, these complementary skills are what they worked on, and that got them all the opportunities. The first one is sales. They were focusing on sales, and that helped them get opportunities, right? Now, I was recently interviewing a billionaire in Dubai, and they said that the one most important skill that helped them was sales. Your ability to convince someone to buy into what you have to sell is very important. And as you will see in your career, this will help you get a better job, get a better client, get new opportunities, or just influence someone to buy what you have to sell. And that's the power of sales. What you also have is negotiation. Your ability to negotiate a fair price for any deal that you're doing is very important. What else? Storytelling. Storytelling is a skill. If you can weave a story that captures attention of people on social or elsewhere, that skill will help you get tremendous opportunities. And most of us have never even tried getting better at it. What else do you have? You have copywriting. There are so many people who suck at writing effectively. And if you can just learn this one skill, you can get so many opportunities because you know how to write using less words, which can capture attention of people, right? Let's keep going. Then you have public speaking, what I'm doing right now. Your ability to talk to people and convince them for something that you stand for is very important. What else? User behavior. There are so many of us which will be working with data, and one most important thing is to understand how people behave. So if you can understand the psychology of people, that will be very important as well. So that's user behavior. So when you combine any of these skills together is when you build your skill stack, right? So when you do that, you become this, right? So your focus should always be, how can I combine multiple skills and become the person which gets infinite opportunities? I get emails every single day in my mailbox asking me to work with companies. I never reach out to them. I built a tool, I built my skill stack that enables me to get opportunities every single day. And that's very important. So my final say is, stack out to stand out, right? That's what I want you to understand. Lastly, let's talk about communication skills, because I think it's very important and most people suck at it. So, communication skills I learned is important because I had this one time where I was going for a hackathon where I had to talk to people and pitch them what I had just built, right? So I put in the effort, I put in the time to make a presentation, to build a tool, and I had to pitch it to the judges. And I just could not talk. My legs were shivering. I could not communicate effectively. I was stammering, I was stuttering, and I just could not speak with confidence. And that's when I realized I could be the best software developer in the world, but if I do not know how to communicate effectively and sell what I've just built, there's no point. And so that's why communication skills is important, right? That's my own story from an 18-year-old to this picture. 2 years ago, I got to meet all of these creators. Can you name any of the creator that you can see? Speak out loud. Beer biceps. Who else? Suhani. Slaypoint. Flying Beast. Exactly. Abhinyu. Right. So I got the chance to meet all of these people. And the moment I entered into this room, right, this was in Taj, Bangalore, near to the airport, everyone recognized who I was and what I was doing. And I realized how crazy my journey has been and where am I today. And everything I would assign to my communication skills because I knew how to sell what I was doing. So that, I think, is a very important skill that you all should focus on. All right. Now, underneath communication skills, you have written skills. Right? What do you have in written skills? Let's try to have a look at that. I want to tell you about emails because I think that's what you will be doing in your work. You will be writing emails every single day whenever you work at a job or even when you become a founder or a solopreneur. There's a simple framework for it, which is keep it stupid simple. Keep it stupid simple. KISS. That's the framework. Let me give an example. How many of you know about Ankur Warikoo? Ankur Warikoo. All of us know, all of us have seen his ads. Well, I wanted to do a podcast with him in 2020 when I had just started my YouTube channel. He was new to the platform as well. So I wrote an email to him and notice what I have written. That's the email. And if you will notice, I don't have long paragraphs. I did not use, complex language. I made it very simple for him to understand who am I, what have I done, and what is my one single line request. I kept it stupid, simple, and that is what got me the reply. So that was September of 2020. He replies back saying that, hey Ishan, I'm a bit occupied right now, but let's catch up next month. I was like, cool, I'll message you then. Next month, I follow up with him again. I'm like, hey Ankur, do you have free time to do a podcast? He again replied back saying, I'm a bit occupied right now as well. Let me catch up with you in the next year. I was like, sure, I'll message you then. So this kept on happening. I followed up with him for 8 times in a row. 8 times on email. And that's when one time I wrote him this email and he replied back with this. Let's do this, Ishan. Looping his team. And that's when I got to do the podcast with him. Now, apart from the relentlessness that you can see here, what's really important to notice is the communication we were both having. Right? I was to the point, I was not beating around the bush, and I was clear with what I wanted. That is what effective communication is all about. You have to be particular, you have to make it very simple for people to understand, and you just have to be consistent. And this is a skill that you have to master if you want to message anyone, be it emails or text. Use this tool called as Grammarly if you have not already. Just avoid those silly grammatical errors. Like it's just a huge turn-off whenever I see someone making a simple grammar mistake, right? So please avoid that. What do we have? Avoid abbreviations. I get these messages, how are you? And I'm like, this person has not even put in the effort to write a simple sentence. Why do they expect me to write something important? So I just never reply back to them. Next up, you also have verbal skills. And again, this is very important whenever you're working in a group of people. I think that you don't lack vocabulary. Many of you might be thinking that you don't know the right words to speak. I genuinely think that you don't lack the vocabulary. You lack the confidence to speak it, right? You lack the confidence to speak it. And confidence ultimately comes from structure. The reason I've been blabbering for the last 30 minutes in front of you is not because maine pura ratta mara hai, but because I have structure. I have this PPT beside me. And so that should be your focus. And structure will only come from writing. When you have written content in front of you, that will give you the structure, which will give you the confidence to speak with more clarity. And that's very important for you to understand. What else? Keep an open and wide body posture. I think that's very important. Most of us, whenever we go to meet someone, we're just not radiating confidence. Whenever you meet someone, the biggest mistake you do is to keep a closed body posture. You just be like this, right? And you scout, and you're just not showing that confident body posture. And because of that, people can immediately tell that you lack the confidence, that you don't know how to communicate effectively, and you are insecure about yourself. So you have to have an open and comfortable body posture, which invites people to go and talk to you. So work on your body posture, work on your communication skills, written and verbal, and that will help you stand out in any meeting or party. This is another very important thing. You have to master that 1-minute pitch. So many times you will meet people and they'll be like, hey, how are you doing? What are you up to? And 99% people mess this up. When you meet someone you've never met before, you're meeting them for the first time, your goal should be, how do I get them to remember me? And you can do that by communicating 30 seconds to a 1-minute pitch, which talks about what you've done and why is it interesting for people to remember you. People ask me, what do you do, Ishan? And I'm like, I get paid for talking to a camera. That's it. And that opens up questions in their mind. How do you do that? How does that work? How can I do something like that? Speak slowly. Another very important thing that enables people to understand what you have to say and also gives you time to understand what you want to speak. Speak with patience. Speak slowly. That's very important. Maintain eye contact. So many people, when I meet them, they just be looking here or there. Again, another huge turn-off, tells me you're insecure, you're not confident in yourself. Fix that. Be curious in the other person. I found that the most important thing which makes a better conversation is when you are genuinely curious in talking to the other person. when you are curious in what they want to say and how can you ask them better questions, that is when you create better conversations. Right? Like everyone will be like, हाँ क्या कर रहे हो, क्या चल रहा है, ठीक है, बढ़िया. But when you dig deeper, when you have interesting conversations, that is when they will actually remember you, right? So the simple method called as FORD, F-O-R-D, which gives you ample of topics to talk to people. FORD stands for family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So when you talk to them about their family, about what they're working on, what are their hobbies, what are their dreams, where they want to go, you open up deeper conversations and you let go of that small talk. That's very important. What else? There's a 4-step challenge that I want you to take that can help you become a better communicator in just 45 days. You want to listen that? Okay. It's a thing I recently learned from a reel, which was basically like, if you want to improve your communication skills, you have to record a 5-minute impromptu video. You record a 5-minute impromptu video of yourself speaking anything about the day, about that crush you recently had, about that rejection you faced, about that exam you gave, anything. Just record a 5-minute video of yourself speaking about something interesting every single day. What you do then is the first step. You turn the phone around and you just listen, how do you sound? Take a piece of paper and a pen and note down every single detail. Are you taking pauses? What is the modulation of your voice? Are you articulating well enough? That is your audio review. Take notes. See where you're making the mistakes. What's next? Step 2 is the visual review. Mute the volume and just look at how do you walk. Are you using your hand gestures enough? Are you walking correctly? Are you looking at people with the eye contact or not? Do that. The third step is to transcribe everything you've just said. So instead of just looking and hearing, write down everything you've said and look at that and understand, did you make any fillers? Did you make any grammatical errors? Are there places where you could have avoided saying something and said something more articulate? So do that. And the last thing is, observe the mistakes, try to not repeat them the next time, and rinse and repeat. When you do that for 45 days in a row, you automatically become more confident and you radiate that energy whenever you talk to someone. So that's how you improve your communication skills. Now there's one last thing that I want to talk to you about, and this is different from becoming the best version of yourself, just a side note before we end this talk, and that is your parents. I have my mom here with me today for the first time, and everything I've done, she has been the support system to get me to where I am today. And even when I was recording my first few videos, right, it was the humid summers of Mumbai when I was sitting in my room and my mom was the person who was with the camera recording every single video. Right? You cannot turn on the AC, you cannot turn on the fan because फिर वो आवाज आ जाती है वीडियो के अंदर. But she was there with me for minutes and hours on end helping me record those videos. You can still see those videos by going back to my channel. Your parents are the only people who will love you unconditionally in this world. Not your lover, not your teachers, not your professor, it is your parents. And there's a realization I recently had was that जब मैं 10 साल का था, I used to think that कि मेरे पापा को कुछ नहीं आता. Right? मतलब I used to think that my father was my superhero. I was thinking कि पापा के जैसा बनना है मेरे को. I used to look up to him. जब मैं थोड़ा बड़ा हुआ, when I got into my puberty, I realized that पापा को कुछ भी नहीं आता. पापा मेरी बात क्यों नहीं सुनते, मेरी बात क्यों नहीं समझते. But the more I've aged, right now, in 21, 22 and going ahead, I've realized that a lot of the experiences I am having, my father had similar experiences when he was my age as well. And he really knows everything that I am feeling. And so a lot of the answers that you are searching for on Instagram, Reels and Reddit and whatnot, he might have the right answers to it. And that's what I want to realize, what I want you to understand. That's a picture of my father holding a picture of me when I was 1 year old. This was the day when I dropped out of college, and he was the biggest supporter of me, who took a bus from Pune to Goa to take me from Goa back home in Pune when I was living there. He always wishes me before my event, and that just fills me up with confidence, and I know that I have my person with me standing behind me. And that is the biggest and the most important thing. Another important thing is a story that I want you to understand before we open the questions. There's a simple story that I want you to understand. So Amitabh Bachchan was once boarding a flight, right? Here's a picture of him. He was boarding a flight. This is AI. This is not him in reality. He was boarding a flight. He was sitting in the business class suite. And the moment he entered the flight, everyone recognized him. He was like, "Ye to Big B hai," and all. And he loved that, thing that everyone is recognizing me. I'm famous. This, that typical feeling that you might also have. So he was sitting there, but right next to him comes a man and sits and does not even look at him. Now, in his mind, he's like, "Who is this person? Everyone around me is looking at me, and this guy doesn't even care who I am." That's the person. And he starts to make a conversation कि "Hi, आप क्या करते हो? क्या आपने कभी movies देखी हैं?" And the other person is like, "नहीं, मैंने movies नहीं देखी 3 साल से." And he's like, "ठीक है, तो आप क्या करते हो काम?" And they're just having a typical, uncle वाला conversation, क्या चल रहा है, stock market, politics and all. They're just having that conversation. So over the flight, they become friends. They're talking to each other about things that they are working on. And when they get off, right, Amitabh Bachchan says, "It was amazing meeting you. I am Amitabh Bachchan, and I would love to stay in touch with you." Right? And the other person replies, "It was amazing meeting you as well. I am J.R.D. Tata, and it was amazing, catching up with you." And that day, Amitabh Bachchan realizes that there's always someone bigger. And so a pinch of humility can take you a long, long way ahead. It's a very popular story I just wanted to share with you to make sure that you always stay humble in where you are in your life and always realize that there's someone bigger. Thank you so much. This was the talk. That's me on social media. I hope you learned something from this. Was this helpful? Was this valuable? It was? I'm glad you liked it.